Great, it's filling in, Houghs Neck style, and room rise exactly, it's like church when the gospel starts, everyone walks in. I appreciate you all coming out on a cold night tonight. My name is Margaret LaForest. I know just about everyone in the room. I am your Ward 1 City Councilor. I am passing around the room right now a clipboard, and what I ask is that you sign in. One, I want proof that, hey, yep, I held a meeting, and here's how many people were in the room. Two, by show of hands, how many of you are already on my e-newsletter list? Got most of you covered, but it's important for me. One of the most important things when I first ran was communication. I want to make sure people know what's happening in the neighborhood, and I've been notified of communication with you. So that will get you subscribed by signing in tonight with your email address to my e-newsletter updates. So the proposal before us tonight is going to be represented by Mr. Attorney Chris Harrington. I'm going to let him explain the project. At the end of that, we'll get to do some Q&A, open it to the audience. My role here this evening, this is a pending zoning board application. My goal is to represent all of you in your interests back to the zoning board. So I'm having a community meeting so that you have an opportunity to hear what they have to say and voice your opinions, and then I then represent your opinions back to the zoning board. I will make sure everyone's questions are answered at the end. If you have offline questions, I know a few of you tried to catch me beforehand. I will stay after and make sure any one of your individual questions get answered or any concerns that you want to talk to me about after the meeting. So plenty of time available for that. With that, we do have a representative from the mayor's office, Chris Walker, in the room, and from the Marine Unit, Lieutenant Gillen, and our community police officer, Bill Mitchell. I appreciate you all being here this evening. With that, Attorney Harrington.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I should have known to bring more than 30 copies of that map, because I know the people in Houghs Neck take their politics seriously. But I should have expected a bigger crowd. This application is kind of a repeat of 2 years ago. Approximately 2 years ago, Bob Gallagher asked me to file an application with the zoning board. And to just keep it as simple as possible, there is there was a fire at Louis in 1996, the mid-90s, and the restaurant was rebuilt. When that restaurant was rebuilt, there was a zoning board decision that put a condition in it that said that the land where the restaurant is and the land where the parking lot is have to remain in common ownership. And that condition's in there as of today. Bob asked me to file a ZBA application to basically amend that decision and remove that condition so that they did not have to become in common ownership. And the reason why he asked me to do that is that the restaurant was struggling. He was concerned, he was afraid that it was going to fail, it was going to close. And he wanted to try to sell the parking lot to raise capital to put back into the restaurant to pay down the debt of the restaurant. So that was 2 years ago. 2 years later, not a lot has changed. We took a 2-year delay in that process. The council, your council, Margaret LaForest, had asked us to withdraw that application to look at whether the city would purchase the land, or if this piece of property would somehow get worked into becoming part of the maritime zone. And so we honored that request, we withdrew it, and we sat back and we waited about 2 years. And Bob Gallagher called me right around the end of last calendar year and asked me to refile the application. He said we had to sell the property, trying to sell the lot. So the application that's in front of you is not, I mean, normally when you go to a neighborhood meeting for a real estate development project, there are easels at the front of the room with the renderings of the buildings that are going to be built and how big they are and what they look like. There really isn't any of that here because that doesn't exist yet. There's a decision that's on record right now that says that that parking lot has to stay with Louis. And we've asked to amend that to take that condition away. What it means is, I think you all know exactly what it means. I don't think I have to explain that to you. What it means is that Bob Gallagher would sell that land to a developer, and a developer is going to do something with it. They're going to put something on that parking lot land. They're either going to do a commercial development or they're going to do a residential development. The residential real estate market right now is white hot in this area. Housing prices are incredibly high. And so most likely, if someone bought that parking lot, they would probably put a residential development on it. And if they did do a residential development, based on the size of that lot, and the zoning there is business B, it's not residence A or residence B, it's business B. A developer could build 4 townhouses by right on that land. They could build, there's a duplex and a duplex. So duplexes are 2 families are allowed by right in business B. So that's most likely what would happen there. But again, we're not certain that's what's going to happen, but most likely that would happen. So assuming that happens, then we would have Louis' Restaurant and without a parking lot. So our position that we've taken from the beginning is that we believe that there is enough legal parking relatively close to Louis that could accommodate Louis' customers without causing a problem for the neighborhood. That's what we believe. I'm sure some of you don't agree with that, but that's our position. The maps that I handed out to you just are basically, that's just an aerial of the area from the city's GIS system. Just past Louis on the right-hand side on C Street, from that corner all the way down to the yacht club, it's legal to parallel park all along that whole side of the street. I know the trailer lot is for trailers, it's not for cars, but the trailer lot is right there, and we all know that a lot of people park in that lot, even though they're probably not supposed to. And at the bottom of the hill, there's a parking lot for the field on Fensmere. Those are publicly owned, legal parking spaces that belong to the city of Quincy. So that's essentially our presentation. It's not really, we're not trying to play cute with hide the facts or anything. If this request to the zoning board passes, the lot will be sold. It will probably get developed into, I would say, 4 townhouses based on my experience. And the Louis customers would have to start parking on the street or down the bottom of the hill on Fensmere, or they would have to start parking in the trailer lot, and that's essentially what would happen. But also, it would save Louis' Restaurant, and if that's something that you think is important. John Galligan is here with me tonight. He's running it today for his family, and he wants to say a few words about why he wants to try to save this restaurant.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. A lot of you guys know me from the neighborhood or from the restaurant itself. I do want to, thank everyone for being here tonight, and I do want to thank, most of the people in this room for, standing by Louis and, seeing where we took it from about a little over 5 years ago to where it is today, and being customers and continually supporting, your local business. Being driven this deep down in the community, it's very important to start with, start with Houghs Neck and grow from there. And you guys have kind of helped me do that over the last year. Over the last couple of years, I realized how important keeping a business like this in the community was. I've worked in other places outside of the community, in corporate places, Fenway Park, Best Western hotels and all of that. And that was all great, but when you can come down and really, give back to your community, and people come in and care about the location a little bit more than they would in some other places, that means a lot to me, it means a lot to my family. Keeping the doors of Louis open is my goal. That's my goal. I understand that losing a parking lot for myself would take some getting used to, but my goal is to continue to, drive good business out of Louis, to employ, anywhere from 15 to 30 employees through different seasons that are mostly Houghs Neck residents. I just want to be able to keep what I have on the restaurant side if this subdivision goes through. I mean, my worst fear is this subdivision does not go through, I have to ultimately make a decision of what do I do next? Do I take my efforts that I'm putting in down here and move outside of Houghs Neck because of the situation I'm caught in. I don't want to do that by any means. I want to keep the doors open at Louis. I want to keep the customers of Louis happy. I want to keep growing into the future with what I'm able to do. I know, like I said, losing the parking lot and having to utilize on-street parking would take some getting used to for customers and myself alike. I've thought of ideas like valet parking in different areas, maybe down by Brill Field, that would help. I know there's other restaurants in the city that do use public parking for valet services. Maybe that'd be something on the busier nights. You know, I've just tried to rack my brain to come up with better accommodations. You know, we did say a lot of the overflow, and I think we all realize a lot of the overflow does end up in the Maritime Center parking lot. Frowned upon. Some people agree with it, some people don't. I unfortunately don't have control over all the parking, but I do my best during certain seasons or throughout the year to try to help maintain that parking lot. This winter, or the last 5 winters, I've plowed it every season. I've tried to maintain it the best I can to be able, not only for my customers, but also for the people in the community that don't have the parking during the winter. During the summer months, I also send out some of my employees to make sure that we clean around that area too, as well as the city does. But we know that we have a restaurant and there's just things that come with that restaurant, bags and stuff that blow around, so we try to do our best to make sure that we keep our corner of the community clean. You know, like I said, I mean, my goal moving into the future is, and my worry has been the restaurant side. The parking lot becomes a burden throughout the year with taxes, you know, maintaining the parking lot in itself, landscaping and other things that add up. So anything to help relieve that burden that I can, you know, then I can move forward knowing that I can invest more of my time personally, my money personally, without the rest of my family, just, you know, my wife and my family, and purchase this off of my parents who basically own it right now. You know, I need to be able to put myself in a position that I'm comfortable taking Louis, you know, into the future. And you know, right now, like I said, I'm extremely happy where the business has come, and I can really only thank most of the people in this room. And I hope everyone tries to keep an open mind of, you know, what the business means to the community, what it could be if we sell everything. You know, and I hope everyone just keeps an open mind that, you know, if a parking lot is subdivided and something does go there, that, you know, Louis will continue to do its best and give back to the community as much as it can, and that hopefully over time, getting used to the parking situation is something that we can all handle.
Thank you, John. So, I started off by saying that, you know, what we're asking for is, it's obvious what we're asking for. I think it's pretty straightforward, whether you agree that it's a good thing or not, that's fine. Everybody has their opinions, and I'm sure we'll hear them. One of the arguments that we're planning on making to the zoning board is that, you know, Louis in 1996 was a different type of place than the operation that it was. And the city at that time made a decision to put this condition on to say you need to have this parking lot. We think it's a different kind of an operation now. We're not bringing in, you know, Aerosmith cover bands to play on Friday and Saturday night, keeping people up until 1 o'clock in the morning, and blasting loud music with rock bands. And so it's a different type of operation than it was 20 years ago when the condition was put on. And it's much more of a local restaurant and local pub today than the type of establishment that it was 20 years ago. And so basically, I'm telling you, so you can all come to the zoning board hearing if you don't agree with us. Our position with the zoning board is that the circumstances have changed since this condition was put on this restaurant. It's not the same as it was 20 years ago. You know, all your hobbies of wharf and all the fishing and everything that was in the area is no longer there. This Louis is really the only business that's left in the business district besides the yacht club and a small hair salon next door. And so our argument is that, you know, times have changed and circumstances have changed, and it's inappropriate to make this change. And that's what we'll be asking for. So we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Yes?
I just had a question, and this might be for John. If the restaurant's struggling, you get an influx of cash. What changes when the cash goes away? will you still be struggling later? So are we gonna wind up selling off a lot and then in a few years, you'd be in the same boat?
No, I mean, I have some plans on my side that I've been working on, a business plan that I've been working on to, you know, be able to, to be able to, you know, kind of rebrand Louis and remarket Louis. And right now, with a lot of things I've been dealing with, it's been tough to do that. And I think getting, you know, with the support of Houghs Neck is great, but getting outside of Houghs Neck somewhat and getting other customers down is, you know, things I want to try to concentrate on moving in the future. And I have been concentrating on it, I think people have seen that, but I would like to continue to try to do that.
Yes.
Quick question, if for some reason Bob decides to sell the whole piece of property, sell it off as a unit as it is now, when he sells it, the requirement that remain in common ownership is still in force, is that correct?
No, the condition that remain in common ownership is in the ZBA decision to allow rebuilding Louis.
It's specific to Louis.
Specific to putting that building on that property. Because it was a bar and a restaurant with, you know, 120 seats at the time, they put that condition in to tie them together. So if the restaurant goes away, then the condition's gone. And you'd probably have, like I said, you'd probably have 4 townhouses on the parking lot, and you'd maybe have 3 or 4 where Louis is. Maybe.
I
No,
understand.
no one has offered to buy the restaurant for a townhouse.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just aside from like them losing a parking lot, we're gaining 4 new homes in Houghs Neck. The traffic is already really tough down the neck, I think, and with the new PL going in, it's gonna be really busy all the time. I'm not sure if we're gonna have like the room for it. I mean, don't get me wrong, don't take it personal, I like Louis, I do, but, I mean, I keep saying they're gonna lose a parking lot, but we're actually gaining more, like, we are rebuilding everywhere down the neck. It's getting to be too much, I think.
I think if it was developed, I think it would be very similar to what's on Harvey's Wharf right now. It'd probably
Which
be
I think is a little too much. I think that's abrasive, I think. They're too big, I don't know, I don't like them, it's too much.
Yes.
I'm wondering if a review is done on where you're expecting to put these cars versus where residents of the area are already parking, because these streets are pretty packed, as most of the residences don't have driveways, so they're taking up that space already. And we've seen with the Chowder Fest that literally all the way down, even to this church, was completely packed where residences couldn't even park. So I'm just curious as to if review has been done of that, and if the infrastructure has been done, and also, you know, the amount of cars that Louis typically has is also reviewed, because that parking lot's pretty full. And we also have the unknown factor of the Houghs Neck ramp being rebuilt, and that's also expected to bring in a lot of others. So unfortunately, there's a lot of unknowns at this moment, combined with the residents that are already here and the congestedness of the area, and I didn't know if any extrapolation or any review has been done for that.
What was done was just, there's approximately 20 parallel parking spaces on C Street on the block between Louis and the Quincy Yacht Club. So there's approximately room for 20 cars to park on the right-hand side of the street. And we counted the number of spaces in the grill field lot on Fensville Street, which I think was,
But does anyone review it at, like, you know, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when the residences are there, or, you know, during a weekend? Because that, I mean, it's great to say there's all these spots, but they could literally already be taken by residents.
well, there are no residents who live on the right-hand side of C Street on the way down to the yacht club, so.
Right, but they have to drive by, and that road is pretty narrow.
Yes.
So the reality on parking, I hear what some people are saying. When the yacht club is open, and it isn't fully open.
Can you talk louder, please?
Better? Thank you. So, when you're parking down to the yacht club,
Yeah.
right to the left side, along the field, up C Ave, further up C Street, those are all spots that are gonna be taken when that parking lot disappears, right? And we know the yacht club is closed, sort of open, they're not serving dinner. They're serving drinks, and between about April and November, you're gonna have a lot more people there. So during the prime months, when Louis is open, when the yacht club is open, when the other bar room up the street is open, there's gonna be a lot of people moving back and forth. It will become a real problem. I'd prefer to see a parking lot there. That doesn't mean he shouldn't be able to sell it, but we need to do something more as a community to say, let's have a parking lot. And that parking lot, whether it's been paved over or whatever, there was a street that went through it back a long time ago. We need to keep that as a parking lot. And I think Louis is a great place local to hang out. I can walk there, that's all good, you know. But we need to understand how much parking we need in Houghs Neck. Parking's horrible, driving's horrible, the streets are worse, you know. We need a little bit more improvement down here. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, they're taking away, just to expand on what you said, they're taking away, when they build that Maritime Center, they're taking away that giant lot there that people sometimes use to park in. You know, I mean, Louis has got a limited amount of space there to park in front. I mean, I don't want to go and have to walk a quarter of a mile to go to dinner.
But do you want to have a place to go to dinner?
So we're going to close the restaurant because there's no...
The Maritime Center lot is not going away. It will probably be restriped and reconfigured, but that is a downline project. It's not there. But by all means, when it's non-trailer season, every time I go to Louis, I park on the trailer lot. And that's where everybody parks. So just to be clear,
So during
that
trailer
parking
season,
lot.
where do you park?
Cars were getting
Yeah.
ticketed a couple of weeks ago.
It doesn't get plowed.
Regular
Cars got
cars.
ticketed
It
where?
doesn't get plowed.
In the parking lot because they didn't have a trailer on them. So
When?
Been
Who got a
talking to the
ticket?
city about that. I don't know.
Can you tell me if anyone get
People were
tickets
saying
in the
that
lot?
they were getting ticketed in the parking lot.
When? In the summertime. The one day of the event, there were no
Let's be clear
tickets, there was
about
a
that.
warning,
They
correct?
got warnings.
Yeah.
No one got a money ticket.
No, it wasn't a money ticket, but I mean, you can't park there.
You're not supposed to park there, that's state law, it's state.
Is that gonna be changed? Does the state know they're turning their state land into a borrowed parking lot?
I didn't say we were changing it into a borrowed parking lot, sir. The
not
regulations are
plowed. Yes, it
there.
is.
Now, in the middle of the winter, when there's not a high demand for boats, it's not a huge priority for the Quincy Police Department, if I can leave it at that. But
Yes.
So, I know we're here talking about parking, but I'm here talking about a restaurant. I love having a restaurant in my neighborhood. I love having a restaurant that I can walk to. It enhances all of our property values to have a restaurant in our neighborhood. It makes all of our land our houses more valuable. Real estate agents will talk about the amenities in a neighborhood. And for me, one of the big amenities in my neighborhood is Louis. I hope as a community, we can figure out a way to have a restaurant and deal with the parking. Because I think Houghs Neck is like the best neighborhood I ever lived in.
In the paperwork that we got, there was a question of the city buying that parking lot. And I was curious about that because it wasn't clear that the city would want to develop that land, which to me would be a win-win to keep the restaurant and to keep the lot. And I'd like to hear more about the city's plans and ideas.
Very dark,
So-
gray area there.
So, the last 2 years ago, they filed to separate the parking lot. And very loud and clear, including myself, was absolute opposition to development of condos on the parking lot. There was a lot of sentiment, like you just shared, with value of the community restaurant. By show of hands in that meeting, I said, how many of you wanted to bring to the city's attention to consider buying the parking lot? Because there's a lot of constituencies down there. Whether you're a customer of Louis, you're a member of the yacht club, you're going to a function at the yacht club, you're going boating, there's a lot of use. The homes in the area do not have sufficient parking. They all are pre-existing, non-conforming, predating zoning. So the concept was there. The Maritime Center project, it could potentially be connected to, is not in the development stages that it's there yet, that it makes sense. We don't have a plan. So it's like the chicken or the egg, what comes first? And I think that's what it was for the city side that I can speak to, was slow down. While that could be the concept, we're not on the same timeline as Louis right now. And then it comes to leadership. Is this something that the community is saying, you know what, be proactive? Because part of what we talked about at that last meeting was process. So let's walk through what the process could be. Today, it's, oh, absolutely still no condos, we don't want condos. zoning of business B and understanding, to your point, geez, those are monstrosities. They're really big. They don't fit the character of this neighborhood. Each of your properties has rights that come with it, developed by your zoning. So for example, my house, single-family house, residence A. On my property can only be a single-family house. Well, this is business B zoning. It has allowances. Tomorrow, someone could, for example, the entire side of C Street from Louis to the health center is zoned business B. So let's say next to Peggy Rose, there's a residential property right there today. It's zoned business B. So somebody could buy right, go right up to 55 C Street, pull a business permit. If they met the specs, they can put a business in there tomorrow with no discussion because they have rights by their zoning. So it's kind of understanding what's allowed by right, and business B zoning is very high densities, such as Harvey's Wharf. So the Maritime Center project, and I'm not going to get into this because that'll be a whole other, plenty of other meetings on that, but the boat ramp is under construction only. We have met with an architect to begin talking about Maritime Center building. Now, a lot of you are going to run into this when we talk about development. Anyone who lives in the flood zone, any improvements you make to your structure, if they exceed 50%, you have to make that structure FEMA compliant. The city has to follow the same rules as all of you. We're not exempt from any of this. So any improvements we make to the Maritime Center building, we basically have to tear down and rebuild, which is why you see so many people doing that in our neighborhood. We have to follow the same FEMA building code guidelines as every other property. The Maritime Center is in the velocity zone. Today, you'd never permit that, it wouldn't be built. So that project has a lot of challenges, but what's the need? The yacht club will all tell you, we need parking, we need member parking, we need functions parking. Just because today it's not it's not open for functions, we all know that use is coming back online. So the decision to make is, so today there's nothing pending with the state to buy the parking lot. Our message was, we're not on the same timeline as you. We may look at buying houses, widening the street, and improving the aesthetics for everybody to make the area function. You have property that was back when Hurley's was functioning, predated a lot of the zoning, but Business B is the entire section of Bayview Ave, actually Homestead Ave, all of those single-family houses, a lot of that's Business B, and all the way up C Street. So it's kind of understanding what could happen by right. Now, would it be fiduciary, good fiduciary, make it sense to put a business at the dead end of Houghs Neck? Probably not. So I think we're pretty safe that we're not going to see tear down of single-family homes and start building businesses, but the zoning would allow for it. You see the Littles property, for example, right? So that has uses that by right gets to continue and function. Would today anyone want to permit that down there? No, but it does have that continuity. So just things to keep in mind. But I would say, it's an open conversation. If this community comes out of here saying, save Louis, buy a parking lot, partner as a community, then that's something we can bring back and explore. But that's something that needs to come from the neighborhood. My role in this is understanding what your concerns are and advocating for them. That's my job. Yes?
I would really like to see the city buy that lot, that parking lot. Everything is so tight down here. I think that the city should recognize the value of the community and the nature of the community. And by purchasing that, they would be doing it.
So I have to tell you that, John, thank you for speaking, because I didn't know that you were doing that this evening. How many went to Mr. Boyd's wake in this room? So at Mr. Boyd's wake, so my family's grown up here. My kids are sixth generation Neckers. And I think those who really grew up here back in the day, the 40s and 50s, had a really different experience. They created the sense of community we all have. And so at Mr. Boyd's wake, one of his children was saying it mattered so much to my father that there was a family restaurant in Houghs Neck. And I think that's something that my mother says the same thing. When things weren't really the best at Louis, my mother wanted to go to dinner, we're going to Louis. You've got to stand by your neighborhood restaurant. So I understand that. And I think that's what we need to understand what the sentiment is of this community to move forward in that direction. But to me, I'm pretty sure, I understand loud and clear, condos is not where we want to see it go. What suits this neighborhood? And what is it that is the appetite of this audience? So, Marie.
I love Louis. I go there all the time myself. I think it's a great restaurant. And it must be because of tax purposes, right? Why can't John just donate the land so he just has the other side that he pays taxes on, donates the land to the city, it's going to be a win-win for everybody, no condos will go up. He's not paying taxes on it, we can still use the parking lot and everybody's happy. Doesn't that make sense?
So, it assumes someone's going to pay the bills, right? So, I know you're generous, John, but, yeah.
who's gonna pay for this lot? Now, everyone perhaps in the room wants to see Louis stay here. They also perhaps want to keep a parking lot. Do I'd just like to know where the money comes from. Do I, as a taxpayer, have to pay for that lot, or does it come from the federal government? Because if the federal government or some other entity buys the lot, what difference does it make? If someone buys it for us, then it seems that Gallium makes out, we make out.
But not our tax dollars. So I would say this, as far as what is in control and what could happen, sure, the city is looking at a major capital improvement plan. Could it be in that? Could it be in the, for example, about 10 years ago, we did the hotel motel tax, and we did $10 million worth of improvements. We did the stadium improvement, we did Adams Field Stadium. Someone help me out, what else was in that?
Did Pro Field?
Not with that money. Pageant, I don't know, anybody? The stadium, the track, no track. Okay, public improvements, all right? I can't, I remember the time because, obviously stadium, I'm a proud Quincy High president. It was a very visible improvements, upgrading the field with the turf fields. Adams Field at the time got a major improvement, and those are two of the city's best showcases. I mean, I can go back to the mayor and say that's something that he just announced in his midterm address to say, we are not going to use $1 of taxpayer money. This is hotel motel, there's a local option tax, so when you pay your taxes, and you stay at a hotel, you pay, let's say the state tax, we have a local option, 1.5%, it gets added on, and then that portion of those monies comes back to the city. What we've done in the past is taken that money almost as an earmark. We'll bond it and pay it down. We're able to start spending money making major improvements, and the mayor talked about utilizing some of those funds for park improvements. Actually, Pageant Field and Marymount Park, the city's crown jewel, is one in particular that he talked about. It's not before the city council, it's not pending, but that is not your tax dollars, and that could possibly be a fund that we could look at. The other thing is where we've got Maritime Center money is the Seaport Economic Council. We've been very successful in about over $1 million worth of grants through that. But that takes a lot of time and application, and but that is something that we were looking at next for. We have funding to construct the boat ramp, we have funding to design a maritime center. We'll probably go for funding to construct a maritime center when we're ready, but that's a heck of a campaign to get those funds, and I've already gone for $1 million here at Little Houghs Neck. So I don't see that as successful, but it's an option. But hotel motel taxes could be an option.
So Margaret, I just have a question. I'm not from the Neck, but I spend a lot of time down here. But here's the thing.
I'm not sure we're going to stamp your passport, but
It's all right, Margaret. If you're more than my end, you're always welcome.
We're always welcome. You've been in my home.
I have.
Yes.
So here's the question I have. Hotel motel taxes, that sounds great. It sounds like a good option. However, this is opening a can of worms that we're not really talking about. Because what we're doing right now is we're buying a parking lot from an existing business that's not doing well and is in back taxes. I'm not sure if you still are in back taxes, but that was the beginning of this conversation. So you're current now. But the original conversation started was because they were in back taxes. 2 years ago.
It was fiscal need. I don't think specific taxes, on my understanding, is taxes are all paid.
Okay, so here's the thing. If we open the precedent of using hotel motel taxes to bail out businesses, because that's pretty much what you're saying, then you're going to be doing that, and it is, because you're saying that this business, to be able to stay in business, needs to sell that property, and the city now is going to come in and use hotel motel taxes that are usually used for public infrastructure or public needs. Now, are we going to do that for every business that has a need?
So what I'm not hearing is bail out the business. What I'm hearing is a community benefit amenity, right? So how many members are here of the
Word it any way you want, Margaret. Let's roll our cards on the table. It sounds like a bio.
Then I'm not in. I mean, to me, that's not what we're interested in. What we're saying is
And all due respect to John and his family, I love Louis too, but you gotta draw the line somewhere. And if we're developing everything down there, and you're gonna get rid of a parking lot, it makes no sense to me. For building to thrive, they want parking lots. How many restaurants come up in front of the board and say, we want to expand our parking lot? I've never heard a restaurant walk and say, we want to take away our parking lot.
No.
Something's wrong here,
Right.
all right? That's my opinion, that's why I'm here.
And that's why we're having this discussion. There's the, we want a restaurant to say, we want a parking lot to say, there's multiple users that would benefit from this. So there's that. Then there's the attitude of what's the existing conditions that brings us to this situation. So that's what we're trying to understand, yes.
I served as Secretary of Business and Technology for the state, and I can tell you I looked at probably about 120 different businesses. Never one that wanted to shut down a parking lot. Everyone wanted to expand it because they thought that was what was going to determine the likelihood of them surviving. So for everyone here, I can just tell you that having traveled across the entire state, as much as you love Louis, if it's not going to work now, by shutting down a parking lot, you're just sealing the death warrant. And also the children and the safety, I think that's something that needs to be mentioned because with the new maritime lot and the playground right there, and everyone going up and parking and living right there on CF, we live on the middle of CF up there, I can tell you whenever there's an event, we can't find parking, and we're up halfway on the hill. So between those things, one, I can tell you again from experience, it's not going to work. Number two, your safety's in jeopardy and you're putting the kids at risk.
Here.
My wife and I go to Louis every Friday, and just for some pretty steady customers, there is no parking in the existing Louis parking lot now, where they used to be. They must be doing a lot better business, because there are more cars there. So we park in the maritime lot. And I'd like to ask Lieutenant Gillum, what happens to that maritime lot during the boating season, when there are trailers and
Okay,
so on there?
well, we try to take a common sense approach since the middle and dead of winter, no one's launching boats. We're not gonna take cars in a parking lot when the sidewalks are clogged with snow, the streets are narrower. Of course we're gonna allow people, it's just common sense. In the middle of the summer, when we restrike that lot and when the ramp gets built, we're gonna need those spaces for the boats. That's what it's designed for.
And not to
So
say.
a business strategy that includes parking in the Maritime Center lot is not a good business strategy.
I think it's
Thank
fair
you,
on,
Lieutenant.
I think it's fair on overflow, and not to say that we need 25 trailer spots that we don't put in some sort of combination. We don't have that laid out as to what it's gonna be, but the only time I've ever seen warnings issued there was during, it was, a Saturday, there was a street hockey tournament, and there was another event, I think Louis had a function, and it was a lot, the Yakult had a function, there was a street hockey tournament, so there's 3 different things happening at the same time, and no one got a money ticket. It was a, hey, warning, this is a kind of a courtesy note, you know, for example, in a snowstorm, what they do is, you know, if this was a real snow emergency, you'd be towed. If this was, you know, we didn't have to do anything, people were there wasn't any reason now, but.
Well, have they ever considered that, Margaret?
What?
You know, because we all want Louis to say, we all want.
I agree.
Have they ever considered donating, so he doesn't have to.
I can ask
fill
him,
so
but I
many
don't think he
taxes?
can
I'm
afford
just-
to.
that
If you
would-
had an asset worth
Well,
$300,000,
that's a good
can you
thought.
afford to donate it? Because I couldn't.
Can I make you?
Yes, you can.
I'm sorry. I just sold property to my parents, my elderly parents, who owned property in the town that I grew up in. And I had a lot of neighbors who were in the area that used to use my parents' lot to park illegally. And they said to me, can't your parents just donate the property? I had 2 parents ready to go into nursing homes.
Well,
No,
I'm
you can't
always-
afford to just
I'm
donate
always saying that,
hundreds
I
of thousands
understand
of-
that. I'm always saying it because there is no parking there.
I
We
hear
need
what
to
you're saying,
park.
Marie, but I'm just being a realist. Most people, I mean, particularly in Houghs Neck, I mean, I live here too, nobody can afford to just throw 300 grand out. and
My
say,
brother-in-law owns the bar
"Oh,
over here, the man, should he, so then, maybe the city will buy his parking lot, and he can park out in the street.
I think
You
the
can't
bottom
do
line
that.
is,
That's
is
the can of
there,
worms that going down.
is there a solution?
That's
Or
what I'm trying
what
to
are
say.
the options that might provide for the parking lot to be retained with other, you know, community uses to it too? That wouldn't end up having no restaurant in the neighborhood. Because I can also say, you know, I hear what you're saying, I was listening to your response to this guy here, and so, say Louis does go away. Then we're gonna have a bunch more condos, because they can,
Or another restaurant.
and you wouldn't have, you wouldn't have.
Well, I think the restaurant was on the market a while ago, right?
Well,
And no bites. I mean, no one's buying, you can't live in Houghs Neck to own a
There
restaurant
were
in Houghs
plenty,
Neck.
there were plenty of bites, and there were plenty of bites, and most of them for contractors.
I will tell you, I had contractors reach out to me and say, Margaret, I'm gonna solve this problem for you, I'm gonna buy it up, put condos right up. Yeah, no, that's not what the neighbors want, we don't want more condos, so it's pretty clear on that. Allison?
So that was my question, so nothing happens and Louis goes and sells, then technically you're gonna have, someone can come in and do whatever they want.
Right, so,
They could also have a nice restaurant. With a great parking lot.
But we have a nice restaurant.
I agree.
yeah.
Has it been looked at, or is it a possibility of the parking lot being split in half, selling half of it, keeping half of it?
You need the whole thing, I mean, it's full, right? I mean, the realization is, as is, and I'm glad to see Louis doing well, but as it is, the parking lot's full, people are parking in the Maritime Center lot, and it's infiltrating the neighborhood. I mean, that's the reality, is the parking needs. I'll tell you what, I'm lazy, I'm not gonna park at Fensmere and walk up, I'm not, and I don't think anybody else here is easy. Yeah, but I'll tell you that you talk process, Suzanne, and you bring up a point, is that where do we go from here? So let's say the next step for this application is the zoning board, and let's say that there's no proposal assigned, just straight out separation. It doesn't sound, straight out separation has support in this room, so everyone goes to the zoning board, expresses your opposition. The zoning board hears the opposition, the zoning board denies the application. I'm just walking the process here. The applicant then says, well, we disagree with the zoning board, here's why. So a few years ago, the China in Wollaston, this is an example, on Hancock Street, it's across from the alumni. So the China took over Berry Insurance Agency. So how many people go in? I mean, Maureen Gibbons at Daily Tax Insurance, how much foot traffic does she get? Not too many. Maybe you stop in once a year, pay your bill, catch up on your policy, but it's not a lot of foot traffic, but it needs a visible location. So Berry Insurance, very similar business, and when the China came in to take over, said, we're gonna put in 100 seats. And the city said, absolutely not, where are these people gonna park? So the zoning board denied the application on parking, saying that China is in kind of a strip of stores. It said there's 20 spots to that in the back, but there's 6 or 7 other businesses in that strip. And they said, we're going to utilize public parking. There's a public parking lot a few blocks away at the Wollaston T. Now, I can guarantee you, probably without asking, that one customer has ever parked at the Wollaston T to go to the China. However, the city denied it in the zoning board. The China filed an appeal to land court. A year later, land court spits a decision back to the city and says, you must issue the license. Public parking is available at the Wollaston T, and they were looking for 10 overflow spots. I think their application wasn't really fair because you cannot count 20 spots in the back with all the shared uses. But either way, the answer from the zoning board that supersedes the city is public parking is available to this business. You, the city, must allow them to open. Fensmere is a lot closer than the Wollaston T is to the China. I disagree. I don't think I would say the same thing. No one here is going to park maybe on Chowderfest Day, park down at Fensmere and walk up. But we're not doing that. That's not the culture that we're trained on. We're going to the closest spot, park. And there's people who live a block away. I love them. They're some of my favorite people. I'm like, you park right in front of Louis on C Street. You gotta be kidding me. You could have walked, you know. It's just not the culture down here. That's the reality. So that's the process, and the city could lose in land court. We could let the process play out. I mean, that's.
Or we could, I don't know, I'd be happy to serve on some committee and do whatever and explore whatever possible options there are. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of people in this room that would like to see, you know, an end result of having a restaurant stay here. The question is, and I think there's other people are saying they don't want to have tax money paid for it, I get that. But are there other solutions? What can we do together to figure this out? Because I think at the end of the day, most people would like to see Louis stay there. Most people would like to see a parking lot that isn't condos. And we could kind of all benefit together.
But are people willing to put their money where their mouth is? I mean, I think that comes down to it. What is it that you're saying? Because the perception is you're bailing out of business.
Right.
Right? So is it, why is this business so special that it's not? Now, I just want to throw in a total hypothetical, and just for purpose of discussion, there's nothing pending, so I'm afraid of where this is going to go. But for the gossip, all right? So from the Houghs Neck gossip grapevine, right? This is where it would be, and there's a lot of parishioners here. You know, geez, Father English, come on, like, help me out here. The LeBrec parking lot. How many of you think? Who knows who owns the LeBrec parking lot?
The church.
The church. How many of you, public members, not going to mass, use that parking lot? Well played, my friend. Well, yeah, because I enforce commercial vehicle parking. You all come in and complain. parking lot, but whether we're going to Manet, whether we're going to,
But
you
no one
know, a
parks there.
softball game, no matter what, it's, you get extra people coming to your house, you the public, you the taxpayers are all using the church parking lot. Let's take Louis off the plate. There was talk before that the church is like, hey, we don't want any in the parking lot, we don't want that. We're going to explore putting a parking lot between the church hall and the church, trying to reduce our footprint. So what if we were talking about buying the church parking lot? What then? Hey, yeah, makes sense, it's right next to our playground, right? No, I'm just hypothetical. Is it okay for the church but not for Louis?
That's a good hypothetical.
No, that's right, because it's a logistic one. We could be here having a discussion. Should we use taxpayer dollars, and everybody thinks it's a public parking lot already,
What
but
about
the church
snow
owns it.
lots? Because the conversation has happened quite often, I mean, with the crazy snowstorms we've been getting about snow lots, because the school's opened up and we always find out a little late about that, and then, I mean, most Blessed is always so nice about opening theirs up as well. I mean, have we thought about snow lots?
So
Because
we
Boston
have
has
thought
them.
about snow, it's like one of my favorite topics, snow lots. So one of the kind of
Because I
changes
love
we've
them.
made this year is allowing, putting the word out about what lots are there. So it's tough on, for example, a school night, is school gonna be closed, where can you go? We need these lots clear for the morning.
Exactly.
So kind of depending on storms, we've been able to say,
You gotta get up by 7
but
a.m.
the church lot is really always a go-to unless it's, mass on a weekend. But that's, I'm just saying, that's a discussion that's been had, and it would bailing out the church. That's just, by point of reference.
The difference here is the church is not going up in value. If you buy the church's lot, the church is not gonna increase their business, they're not going up in value. You know what I'm saying? But when you're buying a private business lot, their business is still gonna be worth as much as it was when they had the lot, because they can still use the lot.
The land value is worth a lot more than the structure, so they're actually gonna go with a loss, I would bet. Any realtors in the room?
I want to ask you a question. What's primitive part of the
There's a
solar
realtor
church?
right there.
Solar
To
church
Louis?
called- So, no, not to